Hello everybody, you're tuned in with Cultural Cooking with Tisha, and today we're going to be making vegetable lasagna. Here we have our pasta noodles. We have washed the noodles. We have boiled the noodles, and they have been, they're here just drying right now, the water, so they're not wet once we start to layer the lasagna. So these have been boiled in some olive oil and sauteed water, drained and patted to dry. So we'll get started. So the first thing we need to do is we're going to saute our vegetables so we can layer the lasagna. Now, if you want to go healthy and if you are staying away from carbs, you can and you didn't want to use the pasta, you could use zucchini, the zucchini slices, or you could also use eggplant. Those are some great carb substitutes when it comes to making lasagna. So we're just going to coat the bottom of the pan with the olive oil. And we're going to put it on a medium heat. Now I like to start, whenever I am sauteing vegetables or I'm going to do a couple of vegetables, I love to start with the onions, because the onions, to me, if you put those in first and get those nice and tender, it's just best that way. So I always start with the onions. And then I'm going to add the peppers in as well. And I'm going to saute this down, and once this is sauteed down a little bit, then we'll add our other vegetables. I'll add the tomatoes last, because the tomatoes and the spinach are going to take the least amount of time to cook, so I'm going to add the tomatoes and also the spinach last. I will be adding the mushrooms next. So we have those in there, and we're just going to sprinkle the salt. This is about a tablespoon of salt, teaspoon of salt. We're not going to use too much salt because the cheese, the lasagna will be salted from the cheese, and also the sauce has salt in it as well. So then we'll add the garlic powder, the oregano, and then some of the black pepper. And we are just going to cook this down some, just grabbing a spatula, until it's nice and tender. So this is going to take about 5-6 minutes before we add in the other vegetables. So we'll just let that sit for a little while. Now we are going to add in our mushrooms. And mushrooms are a great meat substitute. If you're vegan and you are staying away from meat or vegetarian, you can do so many things with mushrooms. You can fry them, you can bake them. I make stuffed mushrooms sometimes. You can make like a pot roast, and instead of the pot roast, you use the mushrooms as a substitute. They have a very meaty texture to them, and they're very filling. So we're going to cook that down a little bit before we add in our zucchini and before we add in our squash. Zucchini. And we're going to add the squash. And this looks like a lot now, but it's going to cook down. And so we're going to add the tomatoes. And we have took the cherry tomatoes. I just sliced them into halves. And this is going to give it that tomato flavor, since we are not using a marinara or a tomato-based sauce for the lasagna. We're going to add that in there, and then I'm going to top it with the spinach as well, just to finish it off. And I am going to cook it down a little bit. Put the top on it and cook it down a little bit, and then I'll mix it up. This is a great dish for any holiday like Christmas, if you want to stay away from your traditional lasagna. This has all the Christmas colors in it, the green, the yellow, the red. It's very festive. And I'm just going to mix both of those in here with the vegetables. And you, if you didn't want to make a lasagna, you could make you could even make fettuccine noodles, angel hair pasta. I know that at one of my favorite grocery stores is actually Woodman's. They sell different noodles that are substitutes for carbs, and they have a angel hair pasta that's made with tofu that I really like, and they even have macaroni noodles, and they have elbow noodles, different types of noodles that you can actually use to substitute the pasta. So I have that here, and what I have in this cup here is some of the Alfredo sauce that I put to the side that I added with some cornstarch. I'm going to use this as a thickening agent. So I'm just going to add that in there because that's going to help thicken it up so when we layer it. And I'm going to turn it down a little bit. And that looks yummy. So now I am just going to mix the thickening agent in it. And I just used a little bit of both sauces and mixed it with the cornstarch. And that's going to help bind everything together. So we'll saute this for about 5 minutes and then we'll start to layer. This is nice and thick and just the way we want it, so when we layer it, it's not falling all over the place. The vegetables have cooked down and the cornstarch and the sauce have thickened it up, so it is just the way we want it. So we are going to start to layer this in just a moment. Okay, so now we're going to layer the lasagna. I have some whipped cream cheese. First I put the pasta, 3 sheets of pasta here. And here I have some whipped cream cheese. I am using the kind with chives, which is my favorite one. So I'm just going to spread this all over, just a thin layer to the bottom of it. Now if you don't like chives, or if you like something spicy, you can even do a spicy jalapeno cream cheese that they have, or if you want to keep it plain and simple, you can use plain cream cheese, or you can even use ricotta cheese, or some people put cottage cheese in their lasagna as well. So we're just gonna spread that all over here, just a thin layer. And this is going to just help with the flavor. So now we're going to put our first layer of vegetables in. I'm just going to put some here, and it is nice and thick from the cornstarch, so we don't have to worry about it going all over the place. And we'll just spread it out. And if we need more, we'll add more. And again, for the vegetables, we have zucchini, squash, mushrooms, tomatoes, fresh spinach, sweet onion, and peppers. This is really something that you could do whatever you want. Pick your favorite vegetables. If you like carrots, if you like asparagus. I'm a big asparagus fan. You could even use asparagus in this as well. So that's our first layer, and we're just going to add some of each cheese. So we're going to take the fresh Parmesan cheese, the 6 blend cheese, and it smells so good. I wish you guys could smell this. And then we'll do a little bit of the mozzarella, whole milk mozzarella. I really want to use the majority of the mozzarella for the top because it melts really good. And that's the first layer. So we are just going to repeat the same steps that we just did. Put the pasta. And if your noodles tear a little bit, hey, don't worry about it. No one's perfect. So I'm going to put this down here, down here. And the great thing about the ones that tear, I actually use them on when I do a lasagna for the spaces on here where there's extra room. So I would use 2. So since this one ripped a little, I'll just tear it down the middle, put a piece here, put a piece here. And we're just gonna repeat the steps over again. And if you want more cheese, you can always add more. I do have some extra cheese. I'm actually gonna add a little more because I like the top layer to be really cheesy. And what I'm actually gonna do as well is I'm gonna put a piece of foil on top of it when I first put it into the oven so the cheese doesn't burn. So I'll keep the foil on top of it for about 5 minutes, and then the remainder of the time I'll take the the foil off and let it cook with no top on it. So we're just gonna put a little bit of Italian seasoning on top of the cheese for color and also flavor. And we're gonna put a piece of foil and we're gonna put it in the oven. So we're gonna take the lasagna out of the oven now. We have had it cooking at 375 for 15 minutes. And look at that. Yum, yum, yum.